Angie,
John,
are you covered?
well, I'm wearing clothes if that's what you mean.
I mean, professionally.
I can put on my own clothes, John. I'm a big girl.
Insurance, Angie. I'm asking if you're insured professionally.
Oh, yes, I am. Are you?
I'm not, no.
All right, well, let's find out why and start the show.
Welcome to the Coaching Clinic with John and Angie, the show for professional coaches that explores the ins and outs of coaching, from working with clients through to running and marketing your coaching business.
If you're a professional coach who's committed to your own personal and professional growth, cares about making a difference, and wants to have a successful coaching business, you're in the right place.
My name's John Ball.
And I'm Angela Bezignano.
Between us, we have over 50 years of coaching experience and best practices to share with you. From getting started to scaling up your business.
We know what works and what doesn't, as well as what it really takes to have a successful and thriving coaching business.
With new episodes every Wednesday.
Make sure you're subscribed to get them fresh.
We've talked about this a few times, Angie, as to the pros and cons of insurance. And we know it's not a super sexy topic or anything like that, but it might be one that is on people's minds. Should I have insurance as a coach working professionally out in the world, or is it something I don't really need? I've been on both sides of the fence on this, but I know you do have insurance, and I'd like to find out why. What do you feel is the benefit for you?
I didn't have insurance for a long time. I wasn't even somebody that thought I needed it, to be honest. And the idea of having insurance as a coach was very foreign to me. And I was at a professional event, and of course, there was, some insurance person there, and he was like, hey, for all of you people that have a business, and I don't just mean like a business, but you have a business structure, a corporation, you really should have insurance. I didn't do anything in that moment, but it piqued my interest because, again, it was something that I hadn't even considered before. Yeah, but you don't have it.
I don't have it, but I have had it in the past. And the reason I had it originally was because when I was getting started as a coach, a lot of my practice was based around NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and therapeutic techniques within that. I felt it was important to be doing that kind of work to have some professional cover, because it's the kind of work that if you can't help people get the results, some people are more okay about it than others. Some people are definitely not okay if they don't get results they want, or if things really don't go the way they want, or if they somehow feel hurt or damaged by their experience, and you never know. Now, I've never had cause to use it. I would say that. I did have the insurance for a bunch of years back in the UK and never had cause to use it, but it did offer some peace of mind. As I moved away from that style of coaching anyway, it seemed less and less relevant to me to feel the need to protect myself from that kind of comeback or any sort of professional blowback in that way from clients. And yet, we probably have somewhat similar coaching now, and you do feel a need to that. So I'm curious, what makes you want to keep that going, and what do you feel that coverage gives you?
I think it's like any insurance, right? I think it's not because it's required, like to drive a car, you have to have insurance, or if you own a home, you're supposed to have insurance. So it's not really like that. It's not like, oh, I might lose it. It could happen. What if? It could be an accident or something. But I think to your point, when this person piqued my interest, I started to do a little bit of digging. And it seemed to me that there were people who had it because of situations that had already happened to them, where exactly to your point, somebody did not get the result that they wanted, and they wanted to point the finger at somebody. And I can't speak to whether that was justified or it wasn't justified, because you and I both know that there's medical doctors that graduated at the top of their class, and there's medical that they graduated at the bottom of the class, and you're not going to know which is who. Right? So it's the same in any arena, any professional arena, where there are not so great coaches out there. It's just the nature of the beast. When I started to think about the thing that I couldn't control, like you could think you have this amazing relationship or rapport with a client, and it really doesn't take much sometimes for that to shift. And all of a sudden, it's everybody wants to come after you. And I would say that was the big shift for me. When I thought about potentially what could happen because I did find people who were sued by
Yeah.
client. I was like, okay, I'm going to have that. And it's a little bit, even the insurance itself, I looked at the policy and basically the way my personal insurance is set up, and this would differ for everybody. They could do their own homework and figure out their own thing, but it's kind of like, no, we can't come and take your house and you're this and you're that. So I'm covered. And that's really the motivation, is that so much of what we do is subjective. So how do we decide? And who knows when you're going to find that person? But something you said really stuck out for me, that once I stopped doing that type of coaching, then I felt like maybe I didn't need it. And that's so interesting to me, because I'm like, what's the differentiation for you?
Mm. I think that was much more interventional coaching, where someone's coming to you saying, I've got this problem, and you're saying, okay, well, I'm going to help you with that. And I have the solution, essentially. So if someone was coming to me, I don't know, well, one example be to quit smoking, which I know I did some smoking cessations with people, some successful, some not. But it could be something like that. It could be maybe they want to lose weight. Maybe that doesn't happen. They want to have some kind of psychological intervention. They want to change something, change how they're showing up in their lives. And that. I think coaching is going to do some level of that, but the NLP stuff is much more, at least purports to be more therapeutic and a bit more, okay, I'm actually going to do this technique with you. So I'm intervening as a coach and actually saying, this is what you're going to do. Whereas coaching in general to me is like, I'm only ever really asking questions. If there is specific guidance, I'm going to offer my experience if I feel it's relevant, but I'm still never going to tell someone what to do. If I think someone might be heading down a path of problems or disaster, I'm going to say, I think, be careful here and consider your options. I would always say that anyway, consider all of your options here and look at what's going to be the best path forward. It's really never about me telling somebody what to do, other than if there's something I want them to download and say, oh, take a look at this. This is going to be helpful to you. Or if we're working through a program, as we do with clients, let's move on to the next part of the program. That's as close as we probably get to telling people what to do. Get on this call with us. That's it. It's going to be helpful. But in terms of directing your life, it's like, well, when we can offer opinions and we can offer advice, but you have to make the decision. And I think we all have to be clear about it's going to be your decision. So in my head, that's where it goes to, is like, I don't have liability for the decisions my clients make. But it's interesting to me that you make that point of, well, sometimes these lawsuits and stuff can be frivolous, or they can have no real grounding. And it's a really good point, because you may have done nothing wrong, and you may still find yourself having to pay legal costs to defend yourself in a case where it's going to ultimately get found out probably that you did nothing wrong. You may still have to pay some costs, so you may end up getting your costs covered if the case gets thrown out, or you get found to be, probably more likely civil cases, you get found in favor, the jury or the judge finds in favor of you. In those situations, you may still have a lot of costs that you don't really want to be coming out of your personal finances. The insurance could help you there, and it can happen. I think it's probably somewhat rare. I haven't encountered it very much, and I imagine it is more of a thing of, I've done coaching in the financial area, and some of my fellow coaches in that area have sometimes worked with clients and directed them towards particular kinds of investments, which is something I would never do, because I wasn't ever prepared to have the liability for that. And even getting them to sign a waiver or disclaimer to say, if this doesn't work out.
You just read my mind.
Yeah. I even wonder, how is that going to protect you completely? If you're going to go down that path, you're moving into the territory of being a financial advisor, in which case you probably would want to have professional insurance, or a wealth advisor or an investment advisor. Those are things where you probably are giving more your expert opinion. Hey, you should try this investment. And you would be leaving yourself open for potential litigation if those things don't work out.
I think there's always the potential for litigation. I think anything you do. Literally, you could drive to McDonald's, burn yourself with coffee, and there's litigation, right? And it can happen anywhere. When I was setting up my business like super professionally, and I did decide to incorporate the insurance, there were some things, even in my contract, that I had an attorney talk to an attorney and said, hey, who am I? I don't want to look this up on Google Docs or whatever to figure out what I should say. What I want to make sure that even though you have that, that's where that disclaimer comes in. So when somebody signs a contract to work with me, there are pieces of that are very specific that if I ever feel that you might harm yourself or somebody else or whatever, that I'm going to alert authorities, or I even have an emergency contact on there, because not doing something is even a liability. So I
Yeah.
don't, again, I don't want to go too far down like the legal side of it, because maybe there are some attorneys out there that are turned coach that are listening and they could shed some light at some point. I think it depends on where you are. I think it depends on what you do. And to your point, what you were doing with NLP was definitely more of a therapeutic approach.
Mm.
But the interesting thing, though, is as you were saying that, I'm like, some of our clients definitely come into sessions they're very emotional. And that doesn't mean that they need therapy, but they look at coaching as like maybe even a substitution for therapy. So I think that and this is part of that obligation, that we need to have that conversation and say to somebody and set them straight, I may not be the right person for you. This is not therapy. And I've had people ask me, well, what's the difference? Well, there's many differences, which maybe we'll talk about at a later time. But in the meantime, it's more about keeping everybody protected. So when I look at that, I think to myself, well, this just isn't just my insurance policy to provide some kind of shelter for me. I don't want some partner or spouse going, so-and-so did something really bad after they had their session with you. Well, it's not my job to decipher what is going to tick them off, or you know what I mean? Like sometimes when you
Yeah.
do deep, heavy work with people as a coach, it can definitely trigger people. So again, to me, the thing that is you just never know. So I just feel like, let me have that. I would say to you, you said something earlier that makes sense. Like we cannot protect ourselves from all the things. There's loopholes in every single document written, right? So
Yeah.
even though I have a contract, even though there's specific verbiage, all of those things, if something happens, something happens. I feel better with it than without it, because who am I? How am I? I don't know what if somebody were to rule against me or something and say, well, because you're this, you should have known better or something, whatever that even turns into. We
Yeah.
certainly couldn't even begin to think of all the possibilities of what could happen,
No, exactly.
right?
And I don't doubt that there is a great case to be made for the peace of mind that having professional insurance cover can give you. Even if it doesn't protect you necessarily from everything, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a lot more protection than you might otherwise have. And you may never need it. But that's true of pretty much any insurance. We have
Sure.
insurance, but we hope we never need it, but it's there when we do. And sometimes we have to have insurance. I do think it is worth checking out what other
Yeah.
people. I know some of my position may be from ignorance, and just sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So I feel reasonably safe as a coach that probably not going to encounter those things, and that may be true, but you just never know. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it is something that people may want to consider. Is like, what is your peace of mind? What is your level of risk aversion here
Yeah.
as to whether you want to have it or not? And also the cost might be a consideration for many coaches as well. How much is it going to cost you to have that? Perhaps if you have stuff out there that is maybe a little more along the lines of courses, programs that are offering specific results, you at the very least need to have some sort of guarantee and some sort of process for handling potential complaints. Do you need insurance? I'd be curious to know how many people in that area even have insurance that would protect them from stuff that might come back there, because I think it's probably something most people don't feel they need. Most of the situations that are probably going to ever rise up from those things are going to relate to probably the best thing to do is to give a refund and part ways, rather than someone's actually going to try and sue you professionally. But it may depend on the particular advice or guidance that's given.
I think too, and I just want to touch on this, and I feel like I'm bringing this up a little bit late in the game. We're talking about having insurance, and think about a car accident, right? Even if you have done nothing wrong, the fact that somebody rear-ended you and the fact that you were just sitting at that red light or that stop sign, you have liability automatically just
Yeah.
because you were there, which is so unfair. It's just the way the rules go. With that kind of thought in mind, I think about it and I say to myself, well, if I didn't have it, am I opening myself up to liability? And I probably will never use it and all of those things. But sometimes people, when they know that there's insurance, can become opportunistic. There are just those situations. I've heard of them. I've, knock
Yeah.
on wood, hear that. I've never experienced them. But the
Right.
two occasions that I heard of prior were coaches that I knew very well. And when the story came out, this is why they're coming after me, I was like in shock because it was so, in my perception, it was very minute. It wasn't that big a deal. But I would say that if you're going to buy the insurance, make sure you understand what the policy actually covers, like any insurance. And if you need to have certain type of contracts, and by the way, yes, you should have a contract, by the way, folks. We want to make sure of that. But make sure that it's as thorough as it needs to be for the level of work that you're doing. That's really what it comes down to. Protect yourself
Yeah.
a bit.
There is another kind of insurance that we haven't talked about, which might be worth considering for coaches, especially those who are self-employed coaches, which is insurance on your health. For not, I don't just mean for hospitalization and things, but insurance on your income. Because if you get sick, most of the time your work is going to be dependent on you being there and showing up. And you may have stuff that is like online courses, programs, and stuff that you don't actually have to be there in person for. And great, if you've got all that, the stuff you can keep running even if you get sick. But for most coaches, probably the reality is if you get sick, you're going to lose income. I mean, rescheduling people doesn't always work out. You're possibly going to lose income, especially if you end up being sick for a long period of time. I do think it probably is worth considering those kind of insurances that protect your income as a self-employed person. If you do end up sick and unable to work for whatever reason, it's worth taking a look at that for
I
sure.
think you've probably caught the attention of so many people because I have heard of it. I've never really looked into it. And I'm scratching my head going, why didn't you think about that? Because the chances of that happening might be better than maybe somebody else initiating something against me. So really super curious. Now I'm like, I'm going to have to make a phone call today and find out like, hey, what is this? Because I've never inquired. I have to be honest. A little bit ignorant on it and know nothing about it, but definitely piqued my interest for sure.
Yeah. So the insurance question, I guess, always comes down to how much peace of mind would you like to have to know
Yeah.
that even if you might never need it, that you have a level of coverage that's probably going to keep you well protected and well covered. If it's within affordability for you and it's going to give you some peace of mind, then great. It's probably going to be well worth looking at. I do know for many people, one of the reasons why I didn't have it for a long time was just cost. Initially, the coaching cover that I had was actually fairly low cost. But if I spoke to any of the major insurance companies about it in the UK, the cost from them was a lot higher. So we're talking the difference between like less than £100 and over 300 or over 500 in some cases per year for that level, for the same level of cover. Yeah, so something that wasn't really on the cards for me, and many coaches, when they're just getting started, are possibly not going to find that kind of money. I wouldn't want it to be something that necessarily stops you from getting started, but I'm certainly not saying don't get it. I'm just saying, look at your options. If you can manage it, it's going to be some peace of mind for you. I do want to come back to this just quickly because you mentioned that you actually know some people who have been gone after. And so are you able to share what those things were that they, even if they were frivolous, what did they go after them for?
So one of them was because their marriage ended, and it was actually the spouse. That's kind of why I alluded, like weak partner, spouse, whatever. And the other one was they quit a super high level job, super high level, meaning income in the United States, it was like over $400,000 a year, which is a nice income, I'd have to say. And like setting these pie in the sky expectations, if you will. And interestingly, one of them did receive compensation.
It's interesting.
But it was more of, so like I said, there's always fault. No matter what, you could be sitting at the light and somebody hits you and you're at fault. Just because of the engagement, there was automatic fault. And again, I'd be lying if I told you that I knew all the ins and outs, but I knew the overview. The first one was like, you know what, you got divorced because your marriage sucked. I don't know what to tell you. The second one, because there was so much money at stake, and that person was saying, I had this great job and no, I didn't love it. I hated it, but it was what kept the lights on and the bellies full. I was the primary income and all the things. And there was a judgment. So that was baffling to me. Oh, so you did something, you helped somebody get to a place where they were happier or whatever that was. And somebody actually came back and bit you for that. So that to me was like, and that wasn't really my opinion. When I heard the story at the time, I was like, oh my goodness, like somebody would do that, come after you for helping to better their lives and energy and all the things that we do as coaches. And that's when I was like, I need to have this, because it was substantial enough that the cost of the insurance for years would not have cost that.
Yeah.
It wasn't millions. It wasn't hundreds of thousands. It was probably around 25,000. But hello, do you want to go stroke a check for $25,000? I don't. Nah.
Yeah. It is a good thing to just recognize that the unexpected can be out there, and the law isn't always as fair or just as we might hope it is. So certainly in its application, and often people with money or from money do find it easier to go for litigation. And some people are just more litigious in general, and we have to be aware of that. You get what you get. That said, I have never had that issue so far. Hopefully never will. And I don't know any other coaches who have. It's interesting. It's like, yeah, do you want it? Do you not? Do you need it? Do you not? Make up your own mind, get your information, have a think about it. Yeah. I guess if you're listening to this episode, you're at least thinking about it anyway. So go and find out what your options are and see how you want to proceed from there.
Yeah, here's a coaching moment. Just, you know what, do yourself the favor. Even if you think, I don't want that, just do what you just said. Just go check it out, see what the options are, and see what the coverage could look like. And honestly, the person that I spoke with when I got the insurance, they were more able to tell me like, oh, this is really what this is going to cover. And that enlightened me a little bit too. Before you make a final decision, just do a little bit of research and then make that educated decision. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I hope it doesn't happen to anybody. That's our recommendation.
Make your best educated decision as to whether or not to have him. Yeah. Great. I think we've done as much as we can do here. And if anyone does want to contribute more, who has better understanding and insight of the insurance world and how this relates to coaches or self-employed people that might be able to offer some extra insight, by all means, get in contact with us and we'll maybe even bring on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
For now, that's it from us. We'll be back next week with more good stuff from the coaching clinic. See you then.
Bye-bye.